Before we begin, let me speak directly to you from the title itself. God says, "Be careful, this person is planning to harm your son." If you clicked on this, it wasn't curiosity, it wasn't chance. Something in your spirit recognized the weight of this warning. There are moments when heaven places a message in front of you, not to scare you, but to prepare you. And right now, as you read these words, something inside you already knows this is not a small matter. You didn't come across this video by accident. You were drawn here because God is trying to open your eyes before something hidden turns into something harmful. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to speak is being pulled from a spiritual atmosphere that's already been shifting around your home. God says there is someone you know, someone who has access, someone who has already been near your child, whose intentions are not pure. They do not carry light, they carry shadow. And though they smile, though they act gentle, though they speak kindly, their heart does not match their words. They have been studying your son, watching him more closely than they should, trying to understand the grace, the light, the destiny that shines through him. And the reason they are drawn to him is not love, not care, not concern. It is jealousy, it is darkness, it is spiritual resentment. Your son carries a promise, and that promise irritates the spirits that live inside certain people. Some individuals cannot stand the innocence of a child whose destiny is greater than anything they ever became. That envy turns into a quiet hatred, a hidden intention. They will never say it aloud, but heaven heard it. Heaven saw the thought. Heaven saw the plan forming in their mind. God says, "Be careful. You have been too trusting. You have ignored your own instincts, brushed off your own discomfort, and explained away signs that were meant to alert you. There is a reason your son recently felt the need to withdraw from certain people. There is a reason he behaves differently after interacting with someone. There is a reason he has been quiet, uneasy, sensitive in ways that don't match his usual spirit. Children sense things spiritually before adults do. Your son is feeling something you haven't fully acknowledged yet. The person who is planning harm does not always appear dangerous. In fact, they often appear helpful. They pretend to care, pretend to support, pretend to love your family. They act like they want to guide your child or offer advice or be a mentor. But under that mask is a spirit that wants to plant fear, confusion, doubt, and spiritual heaviness on your son. They think if they weaken him early, they can disrupt what God planned for his future. This is not random. This is spiritual warfare. God says, the enemy searched your family for a place to strike, and he chose your son because your son carries the future of your lineage. Your child is destined to break cycles. He is destined to rise beyond what others in your family could. He carries gifts that haven't even awakened yet. There is something prophetic about him, something protected, something chosen. This makes him a target to the enemy. Darkness always seeks the brightest light. But hear this clearly, God will not allow harm to overtake him, not while you are being alerted, not while you are being awakened, not while heaven is speaking. This message is not meant to make you fear, it is meant to unlock your discernment. You have already noticed something off, a strange shift in someone's eyes when they look at your child, an uncomfortable feeling when a certain person enters your home, a moment when their voice didn't match their expression, a small comment they made that seemed innocent but stung your spirit, a pattern in your child's dreams, fears, or sudden anxiety. These are not meaningless signs, these are spiritual clues. Heaven is pulling back the curtain. There is someone around you who has been jealous of your child's light for a long time. They see a spark in him that they lost in themselves. They see a purity they cannot recreate. They see a calling that scares them, And instead of protecting that light, they envy it, resent it, attempt to dim it. They have spoken negatively about him behind closed doors. They have released energy that is not of God. They have observed him too closely, asked too many questions, paid attention to details that are not theirs to know. And God says, be careful who you trust with your child's schedule, emotions, pictures, and presence. Some people gather information not to guide your child, but to control him. Some people come close not because they care, but because they want access to what God placed inside him. Access can become a weapon when given to the wrong hands. Just because someone is family or friendly or familiar does not mean they are spiritually safe. God is exposing the one whose heart shifted toward darkness. The person who once came as a helper now carries harmful intentions, not always physical harm, but emotional, spiritual, psychological harm. They want to break his confidence. They want to interrupt his joy. They want to plant fear in his heart and uncertainty in his mind. But hear me, they will fail, because God is stepping in. Heaven is raising a shield. Angels are positioning themselves around your child. The darkness that tried to reach your home is being pushed back. Still, you must be alert. You must walk in awareness. You must trust your spiritual instincts. God says, I did not send this warning to frighten you. I sent it to protect you. Something has been happening around your son that you could not fully explain. The timing of this message is your confirmation. You are not imagining it. You are not being dramatic. You are not overthinking. You are discerning. Now that your spirit is awake, listen closely, because heaven is beginning to reveal what has been happening behind the scenes. God says the person planning to harm your son did not start this just yesterday. This has been building quietly, in shadows, in thoughts, in secret conversations you were never meant to hear. The enemy has been whispering to them, feeding their jealousy, twisting their emotions, planting seeds of resentment that grew into intentions. They didn't suddenly turn dark. This has been forming for a while. You may even notice that their behavior toward your child has changed over time. At first, they seemed genuinely supportive. They may have even acted protective. They watched him grow, watched his personality form, watched his gifts begin to shine, and at some point, only God knows the moment, their admiration turned into envy. Their smiles began to hide discomfort. Their compliments started to feel forced. Their interest crossed a boundary, not because of love, but because of obsession with what they cannot control. God is saying, you have been too gracious with someone whose heart has been shifting away from the light. There were moments you brushed off because you didn't want to believe anything negative about them. A strange comment, a sudden question about your son's whereabouts, a moment where your child looked uneasy after spending time with them, a day when they insisted too strongly on being involved. You explained it away. You told yourself they meant well, but your spirit felt the discomfort. Your spirit knew. And now heaven is confirming what your instinct has been trying to tell you. This person has been influenced spiritually. They have been receiving thoughts that do not come from God. They have been entertaining darkness in ways you were not aware of. Some of the people they confide in do not pray. Some are connected to energies and practices that are not holy. Some of their interactions are rooted in jealousy, insecurity, and bitterness. This is not just about physical danger. This is about spiritual contamination. Your son's spirit has been sensing it. Children are far more spiritually sensitive than adults. They feel energy before they understand it. They pick up on tones. They recognize intentions without needing explanations. That's why your son may have been acting differently lately. Small things you noticed but couldn't explain. He suddenly became quiet after someone visited. He acted fearful around a person he once felt comfortable with. He started having nightmares or waking up startled. He expressed discomfort you thought was just moodiness. Or he began withdrawing from certain interactions without a clear reason. These reactions can easily go unnoticed, but they are not random. God is saying, your child's spirit is reacting to an atmosphere that is not safe for him. And the enemy knows something about your son. You are just beginning to understand. He carries an assignment. He carries generational purpose. He carries a calling that will break patterns your family has struggled with. And the enemy's only strategy is to attack early, to plant fear before courage blossoms, to dim light before it reaches its full brightness. But heaven is stepping in. God says, I am exposing the one who pretended to care. Every fake smile, every forced hug, every checking in that wasn't genuine, every question they asked just to gather information, every comment wrapped in pretend concern, every attempt to get close to your child emotionally or spiritually. Heaven is uncovering it. And here is something critical. This person has been trying to influence your son, not just physically, not just emotionally, but spiritually. They want access to his mind. They want influence over his choices. They want a voice in his confidence. They want to plant doubt so that he feels unsure of himself. They want him to rely on them or fear them. They want to shift his direction slowly without you noticing. But God says, not anymore. The veil is lifting. This message is the beginning of exposure. In the days ahead, you will see signs even more clearly. Conversations may reveal themselves. Someone's true intentions may slip out. You may overhear something. Your son may say something that suddenly makes sense. You might notice a pattern you previously overlooked. Pay attention. Heaven is guiding your eyes. Do not be surprised if your child begins to reject certain people naturally. That is not disrespect. That is protection. He is being guided by instincts heaven placed inside him. Trust his discomfort. Honor his sensitivity. Children are often the first to detect danger in spirits that hide well behind faces. God says, be careful with who enters your home, who touches your child, who asks questions about him, who suddenly becomes too involved. Some people hide darkness very well. They disguise jealousy as concern, envy as advice, bitterness as friendship. They approach with good intentions in appearance, but their spirit leaks something your heart can feel. There is also something else God is revealing. This person has spoken negatively about your child in secret. Not always loudly, not always obviously, but enough for the spiritual atmosphere to shift. Words have power. Words carry energy, and the enemy uses careless words to open small doors of confusion. But heaven is closing every door the enemy tried to open. God says, I have placed a shield around your son so strong that even the shadows fear him. This is why the attack feels like it's picking up intensity, because the enemy realizes time is running out. This is the last attempt to break what cannot be broken. You may have noticed strange tension around your household lately, some days of unexplained heaviness, moments of irritation, unusual arguments, fatigue that came out of nowhere. These were not random, they were distractions meant to weaken your awareness. But look at you now, awake, alert, spiritually ready. Everything you are reading is part of God's plan to guide your steps. You are not alone in this. You are being equipped, strengthened, lifted into discernment you never had before. God is saying, I am with you. I am with your son. And no matter who tries to harm him, their plan will collapse before it even reaches his path. And now the Lord says, listen closely, because what I am about to reveal is the very thing the enemy hoped you would never discover. There is a conversation happening right now, not in your home, not in your presence, but in a place where your son's name has been spoken without respect, without truth, and without mercy. Words have been twisted, Intentions have been distorted, and pictures have been painted that do not match who your son truly is. But God says, I have stepped into that room. There are people who think they hold the power to decide your son's future. They think a human decision can rewrite a destiny that heaven authored. They speak as if their opinions carry eternal weight. They sit together and try to determine the path of a child who belongs to God. But the Lord says, they have forgotten one thing. I sit above every council, every meeting, every whisper, every plan. What they do not realize is that even when they gathered, even when they discussed, even when they tried to agree on a decision that would harm your son, the Spirit of God was already there, scattering their unity and confusing their strategy. Right now, heaven is interrupting every voice raised against your child. The enemy hoped you would stay silent, that you would assume it was just life, just coincidence, just misunderstanding. But God says, this is spiritual, this is intentional, and I am exposing it before it matures. What was supposed to happen behind your back, God is revealing in front of your eyes. What was supposed to be hidden, God is pulling into the open. What was supposed to harm your son, God is turning into a testimony. Your son may not even know half of what is being discussed about him. He may be unaware of the traps being set, unaware of the envy surrounding him, unaware of the confusion the enemy is stirring through people he trusts. But God says, even when he does not see the danger, I see it. And when he cannot defend himself, I defend him. The Lord has surrounded him with a shield that no human hand can dismantle. There is a sudden shift happening. You may feel it in your spirit. Something that was stuck is beginning to move. Something that felt heavy is losing its grip. Something that threatened your son is breaking apart. God says, my hand is moving faster than their plan. They plotted with confidence, but they did not expect God to intervene with power. And listen carefully. The person who tried to lead the attack against your son will be silenced. Not because you will do it, not because anyone will confront them, but because God himself is placing a divine stop in front of their mouth. Their influence will break. Their authority will diminish. Their credibility will crumble. They will attempt to speak, but what they say will no longer hold weight. They will try to act, but the doors they thought they controlled will close in their faces. God says, I will weaken the strength of those who stand against your son. You are not hearing this by accident. Something in the unseen is unfolding right now. Your prayers, the ones you whispered with tears, the ones you didn't know how to form into words, the ones you prayed when you were exhausted, those prayers are standing in front of your son like a wall. God has counted every tear, and none of them have been ignored. There is also someone sitting in that meeting, someone quiet, someone observing, someone who hasn't spoken much, and God is touching their heart. This person will rise in defense of your son at the exact moment it is needed. They may not know your child personally, but God is filling them with truth, boldness, and discernment. Their voice will protect your son when your son cannot protect himself. Their word will stop a decision that would have brought harm. Their presence will shift the outcome. You will never know the full weight of what they did, but heaven will credit it to your son's destiny. God says, you have worried long enough. Now watch what I do. The fear that has been gripping you is breaking. The uncertainty that has followed you is lifting. The dread that has sat in your heart is dissolving. For the Lord declares, what the enemy meant for pain, I am turning into purpose. What they meant for loss, I am turning into elevation. Something powerful is being aligned for your son, a breakthrough so significant it will make sense of every battle he has faced. Every delay, every disappointment, every closed door, every moment that felt unfair, none of it was random. All of it was preparation for a divine reversal that is now unfolding. The meeting that was meant to harm your son will be the moment God uses to elevate him. The same people who questioned him will witness the hand of God resting on his life. The same voices that tried to speak against him will have no choice but to watch him rise. The same trap that was set for him will become the platform for his protection. God says, stay close, stay prayerful, stay expectant. I am not finished speaking. And now the Lord says, watch carefully, because the shift that is coming will not be quiet. It will not be hidden. It will not be small. What has been forming in the spiritual realm is about to manifest in the physical. The very atmosphere around your son is changing. Heaven has stepped into his story with a level of force the enemy cannot withstand. You need to understand this clearly. The meeting that was held against your son is not the final voice. The people who spoke against him do not have the final decision. The threats, the lies, the misunderstandings, the twisted words, none of these things have the authority to override what God has ordained. The Lord declares, I will not allow a false decision to stand. There is a moment coming soon where everything will flip. What looked like danger will turn into clarity. What sounded like accusation will turn into revelation. What felt like attack will turn into undeniable protection. God is about to make it so clear that even those who doubted your son will say, surely the hand of God was with him. Right now, God is removing invisible chains from your son. Chains of fear, chains of pressure, chains of confusion, chains of emotional weight that he has been carrying silently. You may not know the full battle your son has been going through in his heart, but God says, I know, I see, and I am lifting it. There is a heaviness leaving him, a heaviness that did not belong to him and was never assigned by heaven. Your son is stepping into a season where what was meant to break him will strengthen him. What was meant to discourage him will empower him. What was meant to confuse him will position him. The Lord says, he will walk out of this with wisdom, courage, and clarity that he did not have before. A divine reversal is unfolding. God is touching the hearts of people involved in this situation, even those who were against your son. Their intentions will soften, their attitudes will shift, their judgment will weaken. God can turn a heart of stone into a heart capable of seeing truth, and that is exactly what he is doing now. The ones who were ready to harm will become hesitant. The ones who were ready to speak will suddenly fall silent. The ones who stood with confidence in their false opinions will begin to question themselves. And listen, God is also preparing a blessing for your son that goes beyond protection. This is not only about stopping the harm. This is about preparing growth, opportunity, and favor. Something new is opening, a door that no human being can close. God says, what they tried to take from your son, I will restore, and what they tried to block, I will multiply. There is a shift coming to your household as well. The anxiety you have been feeling, the uncertainty that has followed you day after day, the sleepless moments where your heart held too many questions, that weight is breaking now. God says, I am replacing your worry with peace, your fear with assurance, your confusion with clarity. You will feel a release, a calm that settles over you unexpectedly, and that will be your sign. Heaven has taken full control. Even the timing of everything is divinely arranged. Nothing is late, nothing is accidental. Nothing is out of order. Every moment has been guided. Every delay has served a purpose. Every shift has been part of God's protection. And now the Lord says, the season of danger is ending. The season of breakthrough is beginning. Your son will not fall. He will not be lost. He will not be taken from your life. The hand of God is wrapped tightly around him, and no plan, no person, no force, no enemy can break through that protection. God has already stepped into the situation before any human decision could be finalized. Heaven has already reversed what the enemy tried to orchestrate. You will testify. Your son will testify. And those who doubted the power of God will witness a miracle they cannot deny. The same people who sat in that meeting will see the evidence of God's covering. And when the dust settles, the victory will be clear, not by human strength, not by human influence, but by the hand of the Almighty. The Lord says, "Be still and do not fear. What I have started, I will finish. What I have spoken, I will fulfill. And what I have covered, no one can uncover." Your son is safe. Your son is protected. Your son is surrounded by God's presence. And soon, you will see the breakthrough with your own eyes.